We all love those clips, right? People trying and failing hard, sometimes several times in a row. Why else do those channels and videos have millions or even 100 million of views? Certainly not because they show some of the most successful people. Or maybe they actually do show us what success means. Those fake compilations and the joy we feel when watching them are certainly the most prominent manifestation of how today's society mistakenly treats failure and thereby destroys your full potential of becoming successful. But luckily, success is an easy equation that we are going to solve. So by the end of the video, you have a guide you can apply to finally reach your full potential and get rid of your fear of failure. But first, if you want to become more successful, you need to understand why the fear of failure might be holding you back and where it comes from. I mean, just look at the equation of success. One part of it is failure, so it's a necessity and essential to success. But most of us are actually afraid of failing, eventually holding you back from succeeding, which might be due to a combination of the following. Just go back in time and remember when you were a kid at school. You were taught to write, calculate, and solve simple equations or tests. And most of those tasks had one thing in common. Their solution was right or wrong. And generally, being wrong was associated with being bad or just not good enough. For example, having spelled a word wrongly, having solved a math problem incorrectly, or having scored below average in a test. All this was just seen as having failed. And this concept of failing equals bad and succeeding equals good might even go back to early mankind. At least that's what some psychologists suggest. They claim that this connotation is deeply rooted in Darwinism, the theory of natural selection, where only the fittest survive. Or in other words, only those that are being right succeed, whilst the ones who are wrong are the inferior. And that's, by the way, also why people love to watch fail compilations. It's due to Schadenfreude, a German word that literally means harm joy. So the joy you feel when seeing someone fail or breaking down, which gives you the feeling of superiority. But in reality, it's not the ones who try and fail, but the ones who do not even dare that will never succeed. Let me explain. As we know, failure is part of the equation of success, but at the same time, we are taught to associate a bad feeling or maybe even shame with failure. And that's the actual problem. Having learned this belief for years, it is very hard to get rid of it. Even though as adults we might know that failing is part of life, we still struggle to do so and admit. Because failing, realizing and admitting makes us vulnerable, which in turn causes self-doubt and uncertainty. Just imagine you have been assigned a super important project at work. And the first task is to come up with a business plan and to present that to your management team. You're super excited, get all the numbers, make the seemingly correct assumptions, get experts' input, and eventually present everything in a perfectly prepared presentation to your management. And you're ripped apart. Apparently, the numbers you've been using were completely wrong and the assumptions completely off. Having spent almost 3 weeks with this task, you feel like a total loser, having failed across the board. That hurts your self-esteem, makes you feel even more uncertain next time you present, and a lot more vulnerable, causing others doubting the quality of your work in general. Or as Michelle Obama put it, failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result. It's vulnerability that breeds with self-doubt and then is escalated, often deliberately by fear. But since failure is part of the equation, it cannot be cancelled out. Because without failure, there wouldn't be any lessons learned. So maybe failing is actually not too bad. I mean, just look at some of today's most important inventions and essential items that would not have been invented without a series of failure. The light bulb, invented by Thomas Edison in the late 19th century, which was just 1 out of 1,000 patents Edison has claimed over his life, and became famous for the quote that he has not failed but just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Or look at the sticky note that was originally invented by a researcher at 3M. Though having spent tremendous amount of work and time looking for bigger, stronger and tougher adhesives, that's not what he found, but instead he developed one that stuck lightly to surfaces it could easily be removed again. And even after years of not finding a proper use and an initial unsuccessful launch, 3M released the classic Post-it that eventually became a massive success. All those inventors have failed over and over again, but most importantly, they have never given up. They have never let self-doubt or uncertainty take over their actions, but rather they have found motivation in their failure. And that's the second part of the equation of success: perseverance. The art and ability of not giving up but keep going. Not letting yourself down even if you may have failed already several times in a row, but rather taking the lessons learned to fuel your motivation. The ability to keep going and learn from your past failures and mistakes is the ultimate ability to succeed. Now, going back to our beloved fail compilations, which may continue to make us laugh because we're just entertained. But remember that all those who fail in the clips you are watching are the ones who have tried and maybe showed the perseverance to eventually succeed in whatever they were trying to achieve. Now, enough about fail compilations that you're probably, well, hopefully not watching all day. Also, you're not in elementary school anymore, where a math problem is either right or wrong. But you're rather working in a professional environment or study at university, where there's a lot broader range and freedom of thought. Very rarely there's a right or wrong or a very clear lose or win. Much more often there is a certain range with a variety of possible solutions that might either be better or worse or maybe more or less suitable. Working in such an ambiguous environment might even be helpful because you cannot be blamed, since there is no clear indication if your solution is a failure or not. But at the same time, you might also not find the motivation or the urge to do more and to continue to work on a project or yourself. So to become successful in today's world, you need to first embrace your failures and don't let yourself down by the old-fashioned beliefs of failure being bad. Rather, and that's the second point, fuel your motivation with setbacks and be persistent in what you are doing. Keep going. And third, especially important in such ambiguous situations at work, university, or creative environments, reflect on yourself and don't let your lessons learned be overshadowed by self-doubt. Be critical and reflect and adjust as you go. Now, if you're lacking the initial motivation to get started with your ideas and projects, watch this video where I will give you the key